Welcome, everybody, to the Difference Maker Toolkit. My name is Terri Maxwell, and we offer typically 3 events a month to the conscious business community. If you don't know what that term is, I'll describe that in a minute. On December 3rd, we're going to be talking about authentic marketing. And then on December 17th, we're going to end the year well and talk about how do you prepare your mind, your body, your heart, your energy to lead a more prosperous business and a more prosperous life. That particular event is from what we call personal fuel. So we have business fuel and personal fuel and leadership fuel. That one is from our personal fuel methodology. So if you don't know who Shifco is, we train conscious entrepreneurs how to grow their business and maximize their impact. If you don't know what it means to be a conscious entrepreneur, it just simply means that we're trying to use our business to make a bigger impact in the world. And I believe that going forward, that our work is needed more than ever to tackle some of the challenges that we face. My background to why am I well suited to do that? I've had multiple large exits, including taking an internet company public. I'm older than I look. So that was a long time ago. That was 1999. And I started and sold another business. And then in 2009, I had this crazy idea that I wanted to build the equivalent of a purposeful Shark Tank. And we started a portfolio of companies with a single goal to use these business growth skills to make the world better. We invest, our number one investment is in zero waste, sustainability. So we invested in Izzy Skincare, Izzy Makeup, other things along those lines. And we do that through what we call the speculator fund, leveraging profits. And we want to invest in things that make the world better. In addition to that, the bread and butter is in what we call the cultivator. The cultivator creates companies. Succeed on Purpose was company number 1, then Ignite on Purpose, Promote on Purpose, Talent on Purpose. You can see there's a theme. And then in 2019, some of my clients encouraged me to start Shifco, and we launched that in 2020, and it's been quite the ride. What I'll be presenting today in this toolkit are what have we actually found from hundreds of entrepreneurs that we've worked with, what actually works to simultaneously grow your business and grow your impact. That's what we're looking at. And ironically, from the very beginning of starting Share on Purpose and Succeed on Purpose, I found myself drawn to this different type of entrepreneur. We call them conscious entrepreneurs. We call them difference makers. Some of them were nonprofits, others are for-profit, but the business was built to do good. That it wasn't just to make money, that they had something unique, they had something of value, a service, a product. You know, talking about your Izzy as an example, the first zero waste makeup and skincare line. The leaders of these businesses lead with a combination of head and heart. And very early in this journey, I was introduced by one of my former clients, Carrie Freeman Parsons, introduced me to conscious capitalism, and I was hooked because I found this incredible community of like-minded people who believed that business could be a force for good. Shortly after that, I was introduced to B Lab, which certifies conscious businesses. And so I feel like today I've dedicated my life to helping founders who are committed to doing good in the world grow that good so that the business is more profitable, it's more successful, the employees are paid more, the stakeholders benefit more, and we're able to make a bigger impact in the world. What's unique about this, when we started Shifco, I did a research study, as I always do, because I'm an investor. And what I found is our value as difference makers, as conscious entrepreneurs, is the value that we provide. And I want to crystallize that for you. What we found is a traditional business, when they're building a product, what they're asking themselves is, will somebody buy this product? A difference maker or a conscious entrepreneur says, will this product solve a problem? Now just think about the difference between those, because this is at the heart. When we start a business, when I started Shifco and Succeed on Purpose and Ignite on Purpose, my focus is I wanted to solve a problem in the space that I was entering. And I invest in things that solve problems, not, it's not about somebody buying it. It's really about the focus being on solving a problem. A traditional business, when they're pricing their product, says, what will someone pay? A difference maker says, how much is it worth? So, for example, when we teach product strategy and differentiation, and when we teach pricing to our members, what we are helping them do is quantify the value and the worth of their product so that it can be priced fairly and that the value can be the center point of the business. And I'm going to talk about how we do that in a minute as we get into the toolkit. The last thing that we found in this study is a traditional business, when they're thinking about success, they're thinking about how much money, how much profit can we make. Difference makers, and again, these are companies of all sizes. They're billion-dollar conscious businesses, and there are conscious businesses that are just getting started. A difference maker, from the beginning, the genesis of the business is to make a difference. And that last point, I want to put a pin in because the world needs this type of thinking. The world needs a focus on value. The world needs a focus on worth and using our business to make a difference in the world. Now, ironically, at the time in 2009, when I started my first conscious business, there weren't a lot of us. I mean, other than Conscious Capitalism, and then BLAD came shortly thereafter, there weren't a lot of us. Today, that's not the case. This is from the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. This was the study that came out earlier this year. And what they found is, and I've been tracking this now for 7 years, and for the last 3 years, almost 50% of US and Canadian founders said they started their business to make a difference in the world. Almost half said their primary driver was to make a difference in the world. Now, and I know that in order to make a difference in the world, we also need to ensure the business is generating healthy profits, which is why ShiftCo exists, is we believe that you can do both. And it's not just North America. Many other countries, wherever you see a blue line by country, that is the intention to start a business to make a difference. The orange line is no, and they make them choose. It's a forced ranking. It's not, you can't choose both. You have to choose one or the other. What was the primary reason? And you can see the orange was to build great wealth or very high income. So this study, again, I've been tracking it for close to 7 years, and I've been watching this tick up. And I believe we're on a tipping point. In spite of some of the things that have happened in the last few weeks, I believe we are on a tipping point for conscious businesses and sustainable investing and things like that, where we're seeing founders start their business with this more holistic desire to do good in the world and also make money. So that's where we come from. That's the perspective. That's the research. What we've found is different makers share 4 things in common. One is the business is set up from day one to make an impact. Second, the founders themselves feel a sense of purpose. There's calling, there's a meaning to it. They describe it different way, but from my understanding, it's purposeful work. They were born to do it. They can't not do it. Third is on the bottom right, they're committed to lifelong learning. So they're, across the spectrum, they're trying to become a better human in the process of building a better business. And then fourth is they are committed to growing a profitable business so that they can increase their impact. So those are the 4 characteristics that we've found difference makers have. And by the way, when we get to the end of this and I go through the toolkit, and I'll pause the recording and I'll take questions. So feel free to keep track of your questions as we go through this. Now, the irony is, when I started Share on Purpose in 2009, I thought, because I had a track record of growing companies, that it would be easy. Oh, great. I'm going to use these business growth skills to do good in the world, piece of cake. Well, what I found is it's not easy. In many cases, it's hard. So if what you're doing feels hard to you as a difference maker, it's not your imagination. You're feeling the hardness of it because our values are constantly in conflict with what feels like is happening in society. Our values are being challenged. I need my business to grow to pay the mortgage, but I also want to pay my employees more because that's what a conscious leader does. So there's a conflict that I didn't have when I was just building a business to make money. Whenever I built a business, whether I was part of a team or my own businesses, it was either built to sell, built to go public, built to make money. When I started over in 2009 with this crazy idea, that's when I started feeling this conflict. So this notion of balancing values, purpose, and mission with the need to earn money is a challenge. The good part of this is who we become in the process is what drives the business forward. That's been one of my biggest ahas, is the business grows as I evolve. And I've evolved more in the last 14 years than probably the 40 or 50 years prior to that. And I feel it. I feel like I'm a different person. I almost sometimes say my DNA is changed because of balancing values and having to make values-based decision when I'm faced with cash flow challenges and things along those lines. The journey that we're going to talk about today is assessing where you are. ShiftCo is based on a diagnostic prescriptive framework. So a big part of what we're always helping our members do is diagnose where they are. And then second is really figuring out where to focus. And that's what you're going to be doing today is as we go through this toolkit, you're going to say, do I have this? Do I not? Do I have this? Do I not? And then what do you need to learn so that you can ultimately increase your impact? So what we're going to do today is to walk you through the toolkit. You're going to assess what you have and where you need to focus. And here are the areas in the toolkit. First and foremost is that personal evolution journey. You can't leave this out. Second is purpose. Third is value. Fourth is the business growing? The combination of these four things is how you make an impact. And if you leave any of these out, the business won't scale successfully. So in our work with conscious founders, we're working on these four things. We're working on their personal evolution, mindset, focus, confidence, the ability to speak in public, the ability to talk about the value you provide versus what you do. We're helping them refine their purpose so they're clear about what that calling is that's pulling them. We do a lot of work on value, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that today. How do you articulate the value of what it is that you do rather than what you offer? And then we have a whole methodology around how do you grow the business top line and bottom line. So let's start first with purpose. We feel very differently about purpose. Purpose is obviously the power of why. Everybody's familiar, I'm sure, with Simon Sinek and start with why, but we look at it a little differently. What we say is, why are you building a business and why does it matter to the world? Because we're trying to help pull the value out. And the other thing that we believe about purpose is we believe it's a verb. And that means purpose is about the action you're taking to make a difference in the world. And we also believe that this sense of destiny that conscious founders have, that we're born to do this. It's not just a transaction to us. And in many cases, even when it's hard, it's something we can't not do. And I oftentimes wake up, I'm having a rough day. I just want to forget this thing, but I can't. I feel a sense of duty and a sense of commitment that I never felt ever. Even when we were taking a company public, I didn't feel the same level of commitment that I feel today. Purposeful work increases resiliency and dedication, and it's fulfilling no matter what. However, what we have found at ShiftCo is that the power of purpose, because it's a verb, is it can and should be measured. And that is how you increase your impact. When you're measuring your purpose and you're saying, okay, this is what I really want to do. So I want to inspire the potential and help these businesses grow. If you can measure whether or not you're fulfilling that purpose, one, it will show you where your personal work is. And secondly, it will help you refine the impact that you're making in the world. And when we measure our purpose and we treat purpose like a verb rather than a broad why statement, and we respond accordingly, we increase the value to our customers. And that's the key. let me show you what that means to me, and how I really, really crystallize this. So in the upper right-hand corner, you see what ShiftCo's purpose is. And basically, we want to support the development of conscious entrepreneurs and building socially and environmentally friendly businesses. That's our charter. That's our purpose. When we started this journey in 2020, 1 year into it, we said, okay, this purpose thing, let's measure it. And we created a metric called the member success ratio. In 2021, 53.4% of our members had doubled their revenue, which is pretty awesome. But we were not satisfied with that, and we started digging into it, and we realized we were missing the personal fuel area. So we started adding things on focus and mindset and energy work. And lo and behold, 1 year later, now 2 years into our journey, 77% of our members had doubled their revenue. That change from 53 to 77 came from recognizing that for us to fill our purpose, it wasn't just teaching people authentic marketing and selling and how to make a website convert and how to price a product. It was also helping them evolve themselves as leaders in their business. And then as of May of this year, 84.9% of our members had doubled their revenue. Now, we're really proud of that. I want to try to get it in the next year to 87 to 90%, driven to do that. But we use this metric to measure our purpose and to determine what resources our members need to grow their business. And why is that important? Because if you want to fulfill your purpose and you want to increase your value and impact, you need to know where you are against that purpose, because purpose is a verb. I like to think of it as an athlete, which I'll talk about in a minute. An athlete is always saying, if that's the end zone, I'm on the 20-yard line. I need to know what plays I need to run to get from the 20-yard line, red zone, into the end zone. So one of the most important pieces of advice in the toolkit is to find a way to measure your purpose, because it will increase the value that you provide to your stakeholders, and it will guide your action so you're focused on those things that are going to move the needle. Next up, we'll talk about value. So that's purpose. You can see value leads in is when you're measuring your purpose and you're taking more and better actions as against that purpose, your value is going to go up. So value is benefits of what you do divided by the cost. And the challenge here is the vast majority of entrepreneurs, when they're thinking about their business, when they're introducing themselves, what they do is they talk about what they do. And what we really want you to get better at is talking about the value that you provide. And the way that you get to that, and this is one of those things I want you to self-assess on, the way that you get to that is you think about, who's my target market? Where are they? What is the problem that they have? The benefits that I offer them that they would pay for. And so when I introduce myself as ShiftCo, I basically say we show conscious founders how to grow their business and grow their impact. That's the value we provide. I don't say, we offer these services. I don't say, yada, 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 50 companies, I've done this, blah, blah, blah. I don't say any of that. I talk about the value that I provide, and value is benefits divided by cost. What that does for your buyer is it causes you to cut through the clutter, and there's a lot of clutter, and it causes them to have that lean in effect. Like, wait, what did you just say? What do you do? And so what I want you to do coming out of here is to begin to describe what is the value you provide, so that when you're introducing yourself in a networking event, when you're speaking on a podcast, you open with, the value I provide is this. Now, ironically, because this is going to lead into the growth, what we have also found, because we work a lot on this with our members, a high value equation ensures the business grows organically. You get lots of referrals and customers stay and or buy again. Almost 80% of our members were referred by somebody else. Why? Because we have a high value equation, that the benefits far outweigh the cost. And that high value equation, when you can grow organically through referrals, it is a lot easier for the business to make a bigger impact and grow. And so as a difference maker, we want to use our business as a force for good. We're driven to make the world better. We want the business to be a vehicle to solve important problems. The challenge is none of those reasons will cause someone to buy from us. What causes somebody to buy is a high value equation where I feel like, oh, wow, you understand my problem. Oh, wow, you have a solution. Oh, wow, that's that price. There's a lot of value in that price. And that combination of those factors is how you build a conscious founder's business model that actually makes the world better. It also makes it easier to grow the business. Now, what I can tell you as a growth expert, it is never easy to grow any business, but it is a lot easier to grow a business when your customers purchase repeatedly from you and come back again and again, and when your customers refer a lot of business to you. So we're going to walk through the growth side of the equation, because this is an area that we focus on a lot. So what do we mean by that? Well, we have to increase our revenue to increase our impact. If your business isn't growing 10 to 20% a month or more, you're leaving impact on the table, and that's annually. 10 to 20 should be the bare minimum of growth year over year. I don't care what the business size is. You really should be growing at that level, because if you're not growing at 10 to 20%, even $1 million business, $2 million business should be growing 10 to 20%. If you're not growing to 10 to 20%, your impact is falling back. And what you want is you want to create the momentum of impact, so that you're increasing the impact that of your product or your service. Secondly, is it a lot easier to improve the scalability of the business when it's growing? It's very hard and costs a lot of money to improve the scalability of a business when it's not growing. In fact, this is where most companies go in debt. It's where I took on debt, because we had a business that was pulling back, and it wasn't scalable, yet I needed to invest in these things. So the growth side of the equation helps you scale the business. And third is you have to find ways to reduce time working in the business so it's actually more enjoyable. So how do you do that? I'm going to show you two methodologies that are part of the basis of our work in ShiftCo to help you both self-assess and to begin to figure out where to focus. The first one we call Business Simple. Business Simple is about scaling your impact by simplifying the business. The way to understand Business Simple is to think about the legacy of a rock climber. So a rock climber, they can stand there looking at the rock and they're like, well, that's a big rock. Where do I start? Well, I'm going to start and I'm going to just put my hand right here. And then I see another hole and I'm going to put my hand here. And then I'm going to lift my right foot and I'm going to lift my left foot. And so they scale the rock moving right to left, right to left, right to left. And again, it seems obvious, but this analogy is really important to scaling your impact. Because when something feels hard, we have to really step back and we have to look for the most simple step. So if your business feels hard right now, I want you to take a step back. We're going to narrow it down to two areas that we would basically be moving right and then left and right and left. And that's what we call Business Simple. And it always feels hard, even when it's purposeful, but we're going to simplify it. What do I mean by that? So every business is based on two forces, and they are opposing forces. One is supply. Supply is how much time you have, how much cash you have, how many resources you have, leaders if you need leaders. Demand is the business revenue, the demand for the business. So you've probably heard of supply and demand. It's a well-known economic term. But what you may not realize is in entrepreneurship, supply and demand are opposing forces. So they're fighting against each other. And in a minute, I'm going to show you what that looks like, and you're going to recognize where your business is. So they're fighting against each other. And that purple bar that you see is what we call the fulcrum. And the fulcrum, if you think of a seesaw, and a seesaw moves up and down depending on the opposing forces of either side. And so the fulcrum is that little piece of metal that handles the force between those two those two sides, supply and demand. So there are three fulcrums that you'll experience working as a difference maker, and I'm going to walk you through each of them. The first one is what we call the time fulcrum. The time fulcrum happens when the business is somewhere between 5 to 10, maybe 12K a month. And it's a new business, it's a new entrepreneur, and they get stuck in the time fulcrum. And what happens is they get on this treadmill of, we get the work, do the work. Oh no, no work. Get the work, do the work. Oh no, no work. And so the purple line represents their revenue, and it's very inconsistent. It's very difficult. Even as somebody who's started multiple businesses, every business I start that goes through this, when it's under that 10K line, it looks just like this. It's not the, the hockey stick or the line that we want. It's just get the work, do the work, get the work, do the work. And the reason for that is the time fulcrum is the fulcrum that causes most entrepreneurs to quit their business, because it's hard. And it just feels like there's not enough time to make the money I need. And when the money's coming in, I don't have the time to go get the resources I need. And you're constantly feeling this pressure. And again, that's the time fulcrum. Ironically, the second fulcrum, well, most people quit their business here. Even investments that I've made where I lost a lot of money, the entrepreneur quit right here. But the second fulcrum I find is the most challenging, and we call it the resource fulcrum, because the resource fulcrum, it looks more like this green line. It's very difficult because there's this repeated, not the wide swings that you see in the time fulcrum. The resource fulcrum is lots of little failures. That didn't work. Oh, wow, it's working. No, it's not. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, no, it's working. No, it's not. And it's the repeated ups and downs that are very frustrating. They shape the business and they change you as the founder. From my research, 20 to 30% of founders get stuck in this phase and end up shutting their business down and going back and getting a job because they can't manage the resource. If they raised capital, they burned through the capital. If they invested in marketing, now they don't have money to invest in marketing. So I don't have the time that I need. I don't have the resources I need. I don't have the money that I need. And so you get this very painful journey, and you don't usually get out of it until you get well above 30K. And it's very, very difficult to get the business through this stage. Even as somebody that's been doing this for a long time, I still find this phase brutal. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, and it wears you out. It wears you out mentally. It wears you out emotionally, physically, because you just feel this constant pressure for finite resources and that you don't always have what you need. And the beauty is it will teach you to focus, particularly if your business isn't funded by yourself or somebody else. You really have to prioritize and focus where you put your money and your time. The third fulcrum is the leadership fulcrum. In the leadership fulcrum, the business is now above 30K. It's on its way to $1 million to $2 million. This is when it starts to level out. The challenge is if the founder doesn't learn to delegate, if the founder doesn't hire the right people in the right roles, then the business slides back into the previous phase. So it's paramount in the leadership fulcrum that the founder learn to delegate, learn to really prioritize, learn to focus on supply and demand, and never take their eye off of the demand generation ball. Now, I'm going to be ending with that. How do you do that? What's the method for not taking your eye off of the demand generation ball? But the challenge here is, oh, wow, I made it through, 0 to 10. And then, okay, now this difficult phase, that the previous phase that I just mentioned, I'll put back up here, can take years. Oh, wow, I finally made it through this. We're really starting to scale, but now you're tired and you're worn out and you're drained. And you're like, is this ever going to end? Is this thing ever going to take off? And so a lot of personal work and energy work has to be invested here to prepare yourself for the business to take off. And then ironically, when you get on the other side, when your business truly has the leadership in place in between 1 to 2 million, it's easy. 2 to 5 is very easy. 5 to 10 is way easy if you've got this fulcrum under control. So remember what the fulcrum is. It's the pressure point between two opposing forces in your business. They are there for a long time. It's why we try to help our members get past 30K as quickly as possible so they can get into that third fulcrum. Third fulcrum is easier. Second fulcrum is brutal. First fulcrum probably causes maybe 50% of founders to give up too soon. So it's pressure. And these are two opposing forces, and they are opposing. I use words very carefully. It's the demand and then the supply. Okay, how do you solve for that before we get into the growth side? There are 5 things that you can change on the supply side. You can change your product offering. Really, really important to do on a regular basis. You can drop products altogether or services. We're doing some SKU calibration right now with Izzy, dropping some SKUs that are not moving as fast as others. You can add people and resources as long as you're good at delegation, as long as you find the right people and they're in the right roles. 9 times out of 10, we find with conscious founders, it's a pricing and profit issue because they're so committed to making a difference that the business is underpriced. You can add process tools and technology. And then the 5th is what we call partnership models. I'm a big fan of partnering as a way to scale your business as long as you do so in smart ways. And then any time that you get back goes into demand generation. And with that, I'm going to go to the last part, and that is revenue growth. How do you actually increase demand for your business? So we have a philosophy and a methodology for how to do that. And what we believe is authentic selling and marketing is the only way to build a business as a difference maker and as a conscious entrepreneur. You can't advertise your way to success. You can't click funnels and lead magnets. Those things just are incongruent with talking about the value that you provide. So what we teach our members is to build a demand generation system that focuses on enhancing the quality of the relationship with the person you're marketing to. And we've come up with what we call the 4 Fs: friend, follower, fan, and fanatic. Friend is somebody that just became aware of your business. We're now friends. And if this interaction goes well, maybe you're going to be interested in learning more. Maybe you'll check me out on LinkedIn, or maybe you'll want to have a quick conversation to learn more. That's what we call a follower. Followers are not ready to buy. They're just interested in learning more and connecting. Fan is somebody who says, I think I'm going to attend this XYZ thing, or I think I'm going to purchase once. And that notion of really getting good at managing your fans and supporting those fans so they ultimately become a fanatic, that's what makes the whole system become efficient and scalable, is when your fans become fanatics and they bring you new friends. That's why you won't have to do a lot of marketing. You won't need to spend a lot of money. Is if you can get really good at building the friend follower to fan system. I'm going to give you some strategies to do that. And then get really good at managing the fans and serving the fans based on the value you provide, based on that value equation. They will become fanatics, and the fanatics will bring you new friends. Now, from the standpoint of if your business is under 30K, 70% of your time, not counting servicing customers, needs to be spent on awareness building activities. If you're not spending 70% of your time there, your business is not going to grow. 25% of your time should be spent on things like this: sharing, giving, being on podcasts, doing a webinar, networking with people so that you can connect more followers. 5% of your time is spent on closing the deal. Now, obviously, once the deal is closed, you really want to put time in building a relationship with those fans and serving those fans and making sure that their expectations are exceeded. And if you do that, they'll become fanatics. But from a just standpoint, a third of my time is spent in demand generation. This is how my time is spent. 70% of that third of my time is awareness building, 25% is working with the people that are interested, 5% is closing deals. That's how it works. And then if the value is high, that's why this is a circle, right? If the value is high, customers will return and they will refer, and that makes your business move through those fulcrums with less pressure. Is when your clients purchase again and when they refer business, it causes those fulcrums to smooth out a lot easier. Last tip that I want to have, and then I'll pause the recording and take any questions you have. There's a body of research that says that athletes are 3 times more successful as entrepreneurs than non-athletes. I was on an advisory board for an organization that taught athletes how to start and grow businesses. And I was fascinated by this research that athletes were 3 times more successful than non-athletes. And the reason for that is the non-athletes get into motion. That's the act or process of doing stuff. Athletes have trained their mind and their body to make moves. And so what we teach our members is how to focus, how to make moves in their business so that you're not wasting energy. And athletes are so good at this. When they're building awareness, break it down into small moves. I'm going to do networking, podcasts, and speaking. I'm going to schedule it on my calendar. And when that time block comes up on my calendar, I'm going to be incredibly focused because I'm making a move. I'm trying to go from one place to another. And so we teach our members and our founders to dedicate time every day to making 3 good moves, to try to make 3 good moves in your business every single day, whether you've got a 1-hour time block or a 2-hour time block for awareness building activities. Make them as moves, make them with intention, make them being about from going from one place to another. That is what we call the Difference Maker Toolkit. And what we mean by that is if you want to grow your impact, you have to grow your business. If you want to grow your business and your impact, you've got to work on yourself. You've got to measure your purpose, not just state it, but measure it. You've got to really, really learn how to talk about the value you provide and try to provide more value than anybody else. And then ultimately, you have to have a strategy to grow your business. That's how it works. And so if you want to scale your impact, because our impact increases as the business grows, please let me know how I can support you. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Ask to have a meeting with me. I dedicate my life to helping conscious founders grow their business. And with that, I'm going to pause the recording and see if we have